basic approach for constructing operators corresponding to interactions between different kinds of particles is simply, progressively, to apply the methods appropriate for each particle as required. Because of the commutation relations for annihilation and creation operators for different particles, there is no particular necessary order for applying these methods. The construction of such operators is likely best understood by illustration. The basic approach we're going to use here is that we will use the electric and magnetic field operators instead of the classical electric and magnetic fields, and we'll use the fermion wave function operators to transform the fermion position or momentum operator to the occupation number form. Suppose, for example, we consider the Hamiltonian of the electric dipole interaction between electrons and electromagnetic modes.
Suppose then that we had first mathematically turned off any interaction between electrons and photons. Because there is no interaction for the moment, the resulting Hamiltonian is just the sum of the separate fermion and boson Hamiltonians, that is, for the electron and the photon. So here's our sum. This is our unperturbed Hamiltonian. Here is the Hamiltonian representing the energy of the electrons. We're presuming that we're working in a basis of eigenstates for electrons in this unperturbed system here. And here is the Hamiltonian for the photons. From this point on, incidentally, we are just dropping the half that we would sometimes have put in here, the 1/2 h bar omega lambda. That's just a change in energy origin and makes no difference to these kinds of interaction calculations. This sum here, then, is over all the possible single particle fermion states, which we could also call fermion modes. And this sum lambda here is over all possible photon modes. Previously, for the electric dipole interaction, we had, from a semi-classical view of the energy of an electron at position Ri in an electric field E, this kind of Hamiltonian for the perturbation from this electric dipole interaction. Substituting now the multimode electric field operator E for the classical field E gives, for any specific electron, which we're indexing with I, this kind of Hamiltonian. So this is our electric field operator here, and here is our coordinate for the position of particle I. For n electrons, if we stayed in our previous position R form, we would have to add all these Hamiltonians for all of the different electrons. So we'd have to add up over all the possible different electrons here. Now we want to transform this Hamiltonian in its original R form into the fermion occupation number form. To do so, we are formally going to use the n fermion wave function operators. Because the fermion and boson operators commute with one another, the boson operators also commute with the fermion wave function operators. And so we can write that this expression here with our wave function operators for the fermions in here, writing it out, we get this complete expression, of course. Here's our Hamiltonian. And moving the boson operator parts outside, because they commute with the wave function operator, its Hermitian adjoint here, for example, we can write this whole Hamiltonian contribution in this form. As I said, pulling out the boson creation and annihilation operators, the photon operators here. Note first that this operator we'd just written down is a single particle operator. It's a sum of terms, each of which only depends on the coordinates of one particle at a time. So there's only one coordinate in here, Ri. There are no parts of this Hamiltonian contribution that depend on the relative separations of two particles, for example. Now, we remember that when we had such an operator in this R form as a sum of single particle operators for each of n fermions, we had operators like this where we had to add all of these up. These were the single particle operators for some fermion indexed with I, and we had capital N fermions. So we got a total operator that was a sum over all of these. Then the result of rewriting this operator, G, whatever it is, in the creation and annihilation operator form, was that we could make this alternate way of looking at the operator, in which we had managed to get rid of the sum over the particles as an explicit summation we had to perform. And here, of course, this G subscript jk is this integral that we could evaluate. It just gives us a number of some kind for each, in this case, of fermion single particle states k and j. Well, that was a result that we got before, and now we're going to be able to apply it here. So our operator that we had written out similarly becomes this kind of operator. So the integrals over R1 and R2 and Rn and so on just become these numbers buried in here. We only really need to perform one of these integrals over one of these R's to get these numbers, and therefore we obtain this kind of relation. We put the photon annihilation and creation operator parts from the electric field operator back inside one sum. We're now remembering to sum over all of those. And this is the part from the fermion part of that operator, which came out of performing the integrals in here. So here's the actual integrals we have to perform. So this is just reusing that algebra we derived before for a single particle fermion operator. And explicitly then, this whole expression here is the same thing as this one. So this is the actual integral we would have to perform to figure out these numbers. This, remember, is the actual form of the mode of the electromagnetic field that we figured out classically, and these are the actual forms of the single particle unperturbed fermion energy eigenstates. So, presuming that we know these modes and we know these single particle fermion energy eigenstates, we can work out all of these numbers. And hence we have a way of writing out the entire electric dipole Hamiltonian now, using these annihilation and creation operators for both the bosons and the fermions, for both the photons and the electrons. In this Hamiltonian then, with these numbers, all of the details of the specific form of the single particle fermion states and of the electromagnetic modes are contained within these constants. The annihilation and creation operators now identify processes that could occur given appropriate starting states. We can open up the operator expression that we were just looking at and multiply it out into its two sets of terms here. So if fermion state K was occupied and state J was empty, the single particle states, and we had at least one photon in mode lambda, then we could have a process corresponding to this set of operators. Because we'd one photon in mode lambda, this annihilation operator would still leave us with something, and because fermion state K is occupied, this annihilation operator still leaves us with something, and then because state J was empty, we will then be able to use this operator to act on what we get. So this set of operators, given this set of starting states here, is going to give us some non-zero result. And that result involves annihilating a photon in mode lambda and changing an electron from state K to state J. So this string of operators is identifying a process for us. In this case, the one of absorbing a photon to change the electron state.
Now we see one of the powers of this way of writing quantum mechanics. We can immediately identify and separate processes. Previously, when discussing optical absorption and emission, we somewhat arbitrarily asserted that some term corresponded to emission and some other term corresponded to absorption, based on what end result we might expect or were hoping for. But these annihilation and creation operators, very conveniently, tell us exactly what process some term corresponds to.
Similarly, in this expression as written out, the process corresponding to this chain of operators is one of emission of a photon, as an electron goes from state K to state J. We are going to evaluate transition rates for such processes once we've discussed time-dependent perturbation theory for this formalism.
The time-dependent perturbation theory we derived before remains valid as we change the way we write the Hamiltonian and the states. When we derived that theory, we wrote it down using the Dirac notation, which is quite general for linear operators and states. So we can simply reuse the previous results here. In our present case, though, when we use perturbation theory for states and operators in this occupation number form, we are usually considering transitions caused by interactions between different particles, rather than particles being perturbed by some external and possibly classical field. The necessary algebra will emerge naturally when we write down the states and the perturbing Hamiltonian in the creation and annihilation operator notation.